from PRX.
Friends beyond the binary, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for an episode of Sleep With Me. It's time for the podcast that's here to take your mind off of stuff, keep you company, and help you fall asleep. And this is a very special episode to introduce something new we're going to be doing with somebody that's worked on the show for a very, very long time. And I'll talk more about it later on when we start the episode. It's going to be an ongoing series for those fans of Albus Salix and other audio fiction crossover. This is a crossover. I'm really excited about it, but it'll be sleepy. Don't worry. And it'll be something you could check out in the daytime when you're not sleepy. It'll be a bedtime story. Welcome to, if you're new, by the way, welcome to Sleep With Me. This is a podcast to keep you company and take your mind off of stuff so you could fall asleep versus putting you to sleep. And all that means is I'm here to be kind of nearby, telling you a story full of meanders and tangents to help to kind of create a place where you're distracted from whatever it is that's keeping you awake and you can fall asleep. So you have some comfort in the deep, dark night. You have a friend hanging out with you. This show is very different. It does take some getting used to. So if you're new, give the show a few tries. I'm going to tell you about everything that's coming up. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. So glad to have you. So excited to be here, right? It really is my honor to be your friend in the deep, dark night and keep you company. What do we got coming up? Oh, so the structure of the show, we got some support coming up. So the paying for the show is optional, really only optional if you're new or you only listen time to time, like when you're just going through a hard time right now, you need a sleep podcast, you need a friend. Don't worry about the sponsors or supporting the show. It's optional for people. If you're not in a position to support a sponsor, it really comes down to people that benefit the most supporting the show. And that's really the coolest thing. Like when those people support the podcast directly or support our sponsor, we got cool sponsors too. Everybody benefits. And then you don't got to worry about it if you're new or an occasional listener or you're just not in a place to support the show. Other listeners have you. Not just with keeping the show going, but they're really thinking positively about you. So that's the support. Then after the support, totally separate from the support, is the intro to the podcast. That'll be about 15 to 20 minutes, not 50, to ease you into bedtime and introduce the podcast. And then we'll have this very special crossover series we're doing in 2020 here in 2026 that I get to introduce here to keep you company and take your mind off of stuff. So I'm really glad you're here, and I work really hard on this show. So do a bunch of other people. So if this podcast has changed your life, has changed your relationship with sleep, and you would miss it if it was gone, you could support the show so it can keep helping you out by supporting these sponsors or this call to support the show directly. Thanks. Sleep With Me podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states. All right, everybody, Scoots here, and I don't know if you wake up most mornings like me, and you already feel a little frazzled, and then you're starting the year off, and your brain's like, not only you're going to be hard focusing on today, what about the next 12 months? What about the last 12 months? And while I do take a little quiet time in the morning, as soon as I have my cup of coffee, and then maybe my second cup of coffee, and then I start working on stuff, I lose focus, then I get jittery, then I get a little irritable. Believe it or not, Scoots gets a little irritable, and by the end of the day, sometimes I'm exhausted and I look back and I say, what did I actually accomplish? I had so much I had to get done, so much I wanted to get done. And that keeps me on the lookout for new tools, new things I can try out, new things that are going to help me in 2026 focus on what matters and enjoy my life, right? And usually that means something that is easy, maybe it tastes delicious and it's good for me. Well, how about our sponsor, Everyday Dose? Get the boost you need to accomplish your New Year's resolutions. Lion's Mane helps with natural focus, while L-theanine keeps the stress at bay. Everyday Dose is the perfect boost you need to accomplish your New Year's goals. Plus, did I mention, it tastes just like coffee, but without any jitters. So right now, get 61% off your first Coffee Plus starter kit and over $100 in free gifts. Plus, enter for a chance to win $100 cash or get your entire order refunded. Visit everydaydose.com/sleep or use code SLEEP at checkout. Thanks, everybody. All right, everybody, this is Scoots here, and this message is going out to everybody that's been listening to this show longer than a year. So if you're new, don't worry about it. If you don't listen on a regular basis, don't worry about it. Like, if you only are listening because you're going through a tough time, don't worry about it. And if you're not in a place where you could support the show, don't worry about it. Listeners like Debbie have you. The show will be here for you. But if you've been listening longer than a year, you probably heard me ask for support, honestly, thousands and thousands of times. And I'm sure you've got probably just some pretty good whys of why you haven't supported the show yet. Or maybe it's not that powerful, like maybe it's not that big of a why. It's like, well, it's a lot of work. Why I keep putting it off? Well, the reality and the reason I bring this up is like, if people that have been listening to the show longer than a year, longer than 3 years, longer than 5 years, if you're not supporting the show, someone that's been listening that long really does need, like another super listener does need to step up and support the show so it can be here. If each night, like one all-night listener, one fall asleep fast person, one person that listens 7 nights a week to the show, and one person that's been listening longer than over 3 years that supports the show, signed up, the show would be flourishing beyond, it would just be amazing. But it comes down to why. And why did Debbie sign up to support the show? Well, Debbie's had sleep issues her whole life, and I listen almost every night, sometimes all night. I try to keep the queue full. I especially like Trader Joe's episodes. It has now become a habit, and I feel comforted by a familiar voice. That's why I support Sleep With Me as a boar bestie, and it seems like a good value. The obstacle to supporting the show was to remember to do it once I decided to support this particular podcast. And free is great, but if something has worth, it is also important to support it financially. So thanks, Debbie. And if you're listening and you say, man, yeah, that's me. I've been listening 5 years, Scoots, and you finally got my attention. I'm looking forward to hearing your why. When you sign up, I'll send you a video, and you can tell me why you signed up to support the show. Why do you want me to keep it going? Why do you love, like, you know what I'm saying? I love it. And why do you want me to keep bringing you sleepy, joyous delight in 2026? So I'm looking forward to it. And you could do that at sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. Thanks. Oh, Mystery Bard. A lot of people help out on the show. Who are they?
Chris Posty Poster Son sounds like an earful. Wrote the theme song. Edits episodes. Carl W. the Legend. Also edits episodes. Ashley, Kenny, Scotty, Jennifer. Runner. Eric and the team at Astound are on the website. I am the Mystery Bard. I do the lullabies, yeah. I do commissions at jonathanmann.net. I'll write a song for you. Any reason at all. You can tell me the story and I'll make it personal. You see the kindness shine straight on through when the listeners form their own Facebook group. Keith, Stacy, Sarah, Julie, and Jennifer. These are your moderators. Get support your scooter on Patreon. Buy the merch and support the sponsors. You can find anything you want at sleepwithmepodcast.com. And we're so proud that we could dance. Rusty Biscuit, Lois, Anna like banana. Leah does the transcripts.
All right, hey, everybody, during this holiday season, you should gift yourself the gift of sleep phones with Sleep With Me branded sleep phones. We got a few different ones. And you could get those at sleepwithmepodcast.com/sleep phones. That's the only place you could get the Sleep With Me versions of sleep phones. Sleepwithmepodcast.com/sleep phones. And use the promo code SLEEPWITHME at checkout to get a discount. That's sleepwithmepodcast.com/sleepphones and use Sleep With Me at checkout. Thanks, everybody. What do you say we get on with the show? Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake. That could be thoughts on your mind, thoughts about the past, the present, the future, things you're thinking about, or thoughts that are just there. I'd prefer not to be thinking about this, but the thoughts are saying, hello, I'm trying to get your attention here. So it could be thoughts, it could be feelings, anything emotionally connected, those thoughts or feelings that are just there, left over from the day, or feelings, I don't know, that are also making an appearance or about something coming up or something you're going through, or feelings, we have them. It could be physical sensations. It could be changes in time, temperature, routine. You could be going through something, getting over something, in the middle of something. You work a different schedule. Or maybe your sleep is just unsettled. Last night, my wonderful dog slept great, but I think I'm so used to her not sleeping great that I woke up quite a bit. But I was able to stay calm and get back to sleep. And that's what the show's designed to do, help you get to sleep, or if you wake up and you need the show, or some people like to play it and not listen to it. But the show is here to help you out, or to try to help you out. It is a bit different, so just give the show a few tries. That's what a lot of people say. I'll talk about it again in a second. But I don't know, for some reason it just came up in my head now. If you find that this show is not for you, either right now or after you listen a couple times, we have a website set up, sleepwithmepodcast.com/no thank you, where you could check out other sleepy stuff, like other sleep podcasts and stuff like that. But yeah, just kind of see how it goes the first couple times. The reason I make the show is part of it is that I always have struggled with sleep, and I always wondered how come everything out there is so serious about sleep, and even the audio stuff at the time was serious and nothing and not I don't know, varied, right? I would try to listen to the same, I don't know, I remember somebody gave me like a hypnosis tape, and it was actually pretty cool, or one side of it was cool, I think, and it worked, but only a couple times, and I said, oh, okay, well, now I know this thing by heart, and then the second side, I think was a little bit too participatory for me, or performative, for me. And that just didn't work for me. Now, that stuff does help a lot of people out, and that's great. But if you're like me, you're like, man, that just doesn't, I need some help. That's what I'm here to try to provide in a very unique way. But the reason I do it is because I know what it was like for me when I couldn't sleep as a kid, as a young adult, and now when I struggle with sleep as an adult. And I know what it's like to need sleep so I could be functional the next day, or to really desire sleep and say, well, it's really important tonight. And to be denied that, and it's like a little bit out of my control, or more than a little bit sometimes, and to want some help with that, but also to know this is kind of lonely for me and not pleasant. And I don't know what brought you here, right? I don't know what it's like for you. But I genuinely mean it when I say I'm glad you're here and I hope I can help you out. Because I know what it was like for me. And if it's anything like that at all for you, I do feel for you. And you may have come here for totally different reasons, right? But maybe not many people come here. Some people do come here because they say they're looking for a good time. And they say, okay, I don't know if this is fits that definition. but it is a bit of a good time. But like most people find their way here because they're stuck with their sleep or their relationship with sleep or something like that during the day, whatever it is. And the great thing is there's enough people listening right now that somewhere in the world, someone else is listening that's rooting for you, right? That's that does know exactly what you're dealing with because they've dealt with something very, very similar. And they could be near where you are. You know, they could be similar to you, or they could be somewhere else in the world and totally different from you. But they share this thing, and they're really hopeful for you. They're like, I hope this podcast can help you like it helped me. And I hope you can get the rest you need so your life is more manageable tomorrow. I hope for that, but other listeners are rooting for you. They're thinking fondly of you. And they're sending you kindness. I don't know if you can feel it or not. I can feel it. And it does feel magical. Now, not flashy, not that flashy Las Vegas magical, which is good. There's not a lot of glitz around Sleep With Me's magic, but it's like, it's a kind of, it's a not bad magic. Not bad magic. Sleep With Me. It's like if magic was not bad. Not half bad, because magic's never bad. I mean, I guess let's not even get into it. Oh boy, I went down the wrong meander avenue there. But everybody that's listening and paying attention right now is rooting for you to get the rest you need. And you might need the rooting, but you may also get the experience of being hopeful and sending kindness to other listeners and get those benefits too. Those are real benefits, not just to your sleep, but your well-being, sending well-being and kindness out to somebody else, somewhere else in the world who's been through something similar to you, or you can share these experiences with, or they're just in a tough spot. That feels good. And I do believe it positively impacts our rest, probably in a very indirect, meandering way, because if it was one-to-one, I'd be sleeping all the time. But so that's why I make the show. You deserve a bedtime where you could get the rest you need so your life is better tomorrow, and that you get the rest you need so you could be out there in the world flourishing. And, that's what this show's about. The way it works is I send my voice across the deep, dark night. I use lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones, pointless meanders, and superfluous tangents. I go off topic. I get mixed up. I forget what I was talking about. Then I'm like, wait a second, what was I talking about? Those are pointless meanders and superfluous tangents. Creaky dulcet tones means my voice is not traditionally soothing, but it's not too bad. And this show, as I said earlier, it does take some getting used to. When most people arrive here, naturally, if you were searching for something or you heard about this show somehow, and you're like, oh, sleep podcast, it's bedtime stories for adults, you probably had some reasonable expectation of what the show was going to be like. And this podcast ends up being a bit different than that. And you're like, wait a second, this is a bit different than what I expected. And I don't even know what you're doing. I thought there'd be more soothing sounds or swishes or calls or bells or someone with, dulcet tones, maybe like a melodious voice. Yours is like your voice has a melody to it, but it wouldn't be a melody you'd play at recital. I say, yeah, fair enough. I agree with you. Actually, if I found this show, I'd be skeptical and doubtful too. And so it does take a couple tries for the show for most listeners. There are people that get it right away, and there's people that the show just never works out for. But for most people, it's on the second or third try where you realize, oh, now I get it. He is just here to hang out with me, but for me. He's not hanging out with me. He's hanging out for me. And that's a bit different. He's always never going anywhere, always never getting started. And so just give it a few tries, see how it goes. And then if you discover the show's not for you, or you're already certain, sleepwithmepodcast.com/no thank you. We'll take you to a place that has other sleep podcasts and sleepy stuff on there. But you're here. I hope I can help you. This show is a bit different. It's a podcast you just barely listen to versus a podcast you listen to directly. It's a podcast you could just barely pay attention to. Whether you don't need to pay total attention. I'm not going to try to grab your attention. I'm gonna be here to the very end of the show for you. And you could set a sleep timer or whatever. It's kind of like a TV on in the other room, or a show streaming under your pillow. Sand passing through your hands. Watch, when you're just staring at something, you're relaxed. Whether it's a tree, or water, or the breeze on something, or a friend hanging out with you and telling you stuff, and you're like, okay, this isn't super. Can you read me a story that an interesting story someone wrote, but not make it uninteresting? I'd say, you got it. You got it. I can do that. And also, make sure, like, since I'm not actually there, you don't have to worry about me leaving any crumbs or whatever, or being around. You say, okay, you're at the perfect distance, Scoots, plenty of far away. So that's one part of the show. It's a podcast you could listen to as long as you need to, but you don't need to listen to it. And it's a sleep podcast that is not here to put you to sleep. But there is no pressure to fall asleep with this show. I'm going to be here over an hour, so you don't have to worry about falling asleep. There's people listening who can't sleep at all, or who need a break during the day, or have woken up or whatever. And I'm here to for them and for you. Whether you're awake or asleep, I'll be here to the very end. And in this ad-supported, listener-supported version of the show, there's over 600 episodes you could use. I'm here to be your boar friend, your boar bay, your boar sib, your neighbor, your borbie, your boorman, your boars, your Boris Borloff, your chairman of the boards, your best boar friend forever, and just keep you company and take your mind off stuff so you could sleep, or so you have comfort in the deep dark night, so you have a distraction, so you have a friend. You have a friend you could listen to or not listen to, or you say, I don't know if we're okay. Like a friend, we're friendship adjacent, we'll say. I'm friend-esque. The friend who's not quite a friend, if that also doesn't know words that well. That's my friend-esque. You have a friend named Esque? Well, we could come up with an episode one day called A Friend Named Esque for sure. But this is a special cross introduction to a new series we're doing in the similar vein of some other audio stuff we've done with fiction. So, I'm just here to keep you company and take your mind off stuff, not to put you to sleep. So I'll be here, and you can be at ease, and I'll be here talking and hanging with you. So those are a couple of things to know. The other thing, if you're new or you're coming back, or you're coming over from a different sleep podcast or something else you've tried out, let me explain to you the structure of the show and the way we structure it, why we structure the show, how we structure it, because it might explain a lot, right? If you're new, this is the way this listener and ad-supported version of the podcast benefits the maximum amount of people it can, and it's structured to kind of work in a way that as you become a regular listener, it could be adjustable. So it starts off with a greeting, friends beyond the binary, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. So you feel seen and welcomed in. You say, oh, okay, I could check that show out. Then there's some listener and sponsor support. So the show, paying for the show is optional. I talked about it earlier. And there's really no other way to put out a quality show like this. And you can laugh at that if you want, but it does take a lot of work. And the great thing about Sleep With Me and most other podcasts is that the people that love it the most, if they participate in that stuff, everybody else can benefit. It's not really free content. It's content supported by the super listeners. The listeners that love the show or benefit. In this case, it's kind of like a service. So people that use the service more benefit from it more. Everybody wins. But that's the part that makes that possible. Then after the sport, totally separate from the sport, a show within a show is the introduction to the podcast, where I try to explain what the podcast is, but it takes me 15 to 20 minutes. And I follow a familiar structure every time. A familiar structure could be reassuring structure because you say, okay, no, he's going to try to explain what the podcast is. Eventually, he'll say creaky dulcet tones and pointless meanders. But who knows what Scoots is going to get distracted by. Is Miss Meander, have we ever had a character named Miss Meander on the show either? Like, I think we just came up with two new characters. Miss Meander? I don't know. Miss Meander, are you present? That's one of the people we get compared to. Bueller. Miss Meander. Oh, great. You're here today. Great. What was I talking about? Oh, structure of the show. So the intro goes on and on and on to introduce the podcast, but in a way that they talked about this, like the things that didn't work for me. Repetition was one of the things that didn't work for me. Consistency did, and something reassuring did and familiar, but I need some variety in my distractions at bedtime. Otherwise, I just can't, I don't know, my mind just, or my thoughts, feelings, or physical sensations, or whatever else it is, catch on, and they point it out. So that's why every episode's different with the intro, but it still follows that same pattern, that same time period, because the intro also serves another purpose, which is easing you into bedtime, being part of your wind-down routine, even if that's indirectly. There are some people that fall asleep fast. I do have to beg, if you fall asleep fast, please support the show on Sleep With Me Plus, because there's no other way we could, continue to help you if you fall asleep fast. But for most people, they're in bed, getting comfortable, they're getting ready for bed, or they're doing some chill activities, or just relaxing. So we're all kind of hanging out together in different states of easing into bedtime so that there's a buffer between being awake and asleep. Just like I said, I'm not here to put you to sleep. I'm not here to tell you when to fall asleep either. I'm here to ease you into it. And like having a bedtime and a wind down routine, for me, even when I can't sleep, having a nice wind down routine at least makes me feel kind of grounded and reassured in another way. Well, at least I got that book. I started a new book last night. I'd been reading a book for 2 months, and none of which are sleepy content, but or the somewhat, the subjects or whatever. But it's like having that book. I said, well, at least I know I'm going to return to Skip, or this new book. I said, well, I don't even know. I just started it. What's it going to be like? But I am enjoying it. So, what else? Structure show. Okay, so that's why the intro goes on and on and on. And sometimes when you're new, you say, what are you going on and on about? What's the sponsor spot? Like, and I get it. Don't worry. That's why I go through this every single time, to meet you where you are. Because it would be normal to be frustrated with a sleep podcast or any podcast, right? It's a normal thing. I'm not here to point any fingers or anything. Just here to kind of lay it out and make requests where I need to, right? So that's the intro. It goes on and on and on. And if you decide you like Sleep With Me, but you don't like the intros, don't worry. We got you covered. We have a version of the podcast that's ad and listener supported called Bedtime Stories from Sleep With Me. You can find that in your podcast app or on Sleep With Me Plus. Not only do you get ad-free full episodes, you also get ad-free story-only episodes that goes back way, 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 way back in the catalog, or you can mix and match from both. And this doesn't just go for Sleep With Me. Like, whatever podcast app you use, you can find within that app or within another podcast app, like ways to build playlists that work for how you like to listen. I mean, this is not normally a tangent I go on in the intro, but I use 3 different podcast apps now, maybe up to 4 or 5, because I use one when I'm running. Now I use one when I'm in my car. I used to use one when I was listening to podcasts with my daughter. I use one when I'm checking up on this podcast and checking episodes before they come out. And There's probably one other use case in my regular everyday life where I'm using podcasts, and I like to use different apps for those different things because each app you could build playlists in different ways. So it just gives you another thing to test out to make it better for you and your experience. And I think that's so that's the intro. Then after the intro will be some support. Then tonight will be this new kind of audio fiction, sleepy audio fiction thing we're doing. And all told, I'll be here about an hour. I'm really, really glad you're here. I'm really excited to try to help you out in the most lulling way I can. I appreciate you coming by, whether you're new or this is like your 1,000th or 2,000th or 10,000th time listening. Because, yeah, there are people that have listened to over 10,000 episodes, clearly. Even though we all, yeah, I'm really glad you're here. I work really hard and other people do. And we really could use your help if the podcast is something that has changed your relationship with sleep or the day. It's something you look forward to and you couldn't find it anywhere else. Those are people I've been trying to get a hold of, particularly this past year, since April 2025. So if that's you, consider supporting the show at sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus or supporting one of these sponsors. Thanks. All right, everybody, it's time to talk about the sponsor I'm sleeping in, and that's Helix Sleep. And oh boy, you've probably been listening to me the last couple of months. My new Helix is here, and I'm enjoying spending these darker, longer, colder nights in bed. You know, I've been in my Helix loving every minute, even when I've been under the weather, or when I go to bed early, or when I wake up and I want to stay snuggled in bed. You know those wonderful mornings where you stay cozy in bed, right? Where you already got a good night's sleep and you feel so comfortable and cozy, maybe because you got a mattress based on you and how you sleep, your feel preferences, your need preferences, because I'm loving every minute of my new Helix bed. It is so comfortable and so much of an upgrade from the mattress I was sleeping on, which wasn't terrible either, but it wasn't as cozy as the Helix. It didn't feel as comfortable or as supportive. It just felt like a regular mattress, not one that's based on me. I like to sleep cool. I sleep on my side. I sleep on my stomach. And I've developed a fondness for something a little bit firmer. And all I needed to do is go to helixsleep.com/sleep and take the Helix quiz. And I got matched with the Helix that fits my preferences, my sleep needs. It makes buying a mattress so easy. And my Helix came straight to my door, shipped free of charge. And Helix is the most awarded mattress brand. It's tested and reviewed by experts like Forbes and Wired. Go to helixsleep.com/sleep for 20% off site-wide during their New Year sales final hours. That's helixsleep.com/sleep for the final hours of this New Year offer. 20% off site-wide. Make sure you enter our show name after checkout so they know we sent you. helixsleep.com/sleep. Thanks, everybody. Everybody, so this is Scoots. I kind of set this up a little bit during the intro, and I'm still not sure how much of a mystery this will be, but this is going to be fun. This is from the book, a collection of short stories, Nothing Works, Everything Happens. It's short stories from Ayas Aya. And it's the book is dedicated to the kiddo. May you get as much time as possible to run wild with your imagination. I'm going to start with the foreword, and we'll go from there. Nothing Works, Everything Happens is an anthology of minor malfunctions. These stories about people, machines, and massive clouds of dispersing space matter, all trying their best to carry on after the wheels have begun to fall off. I've written these stories to be earnest, disconcerting, and hopefully, most of all, fun. In the spirit of pulp fiction, my hope for this book was to create something you look forward to picking up. So that's the reading, the daytime part. or maybe hearing these episodes at bedtime. Not a chore, but a little escape. Sometimes this book is hopeful. Other times, with any luck, it's humorous. Just don't worry. I'll make sure that any humor is accidentally I'll do my best. Occasionally, it's just a wind blowing dust around a desolate planet. I hope you find something on these pages that feels poignant and heartening. I also hope you find something that rattles rattles you a little bit, like say hello, at least a little. Perhaps most of all, I hope you find, as I'm learning, a strange comfort in the persistence of it all, the way it carries on, rationally or otherwise. Thank you for picking up this book. If you find catharsis in chucking into the void, or chuckling into the void, kind of like rock skipping into the void, but also chuckling into the void, welcome. These stories are for you. Thank you again for lending these stories sometime. I hope they help you laugh and then cry and then press on regardless. Ayas Aya. Now, there's an acknowledgments page. This book wouldn't exist without the patience, inspiration, and support of many remarkable people. To everyone who encouraged this project when it seemed improbable or inadvisable, to all those who've been excited about sci-fi and creativity in books over the 2 years that it took to write this collection. To Faye, our conversation and our life together shaped these stories in so many ways. In moments I've lifted directly from both, sorry. Thank you for reading my early drafts. To the kiddo for constantly reminding me that kid life should always be the goal, that adult life is, for the most part, a diluted version of the good stuff. To beta readers and cover art critics whose early feedback helped shape and refine this book for the much, much better. Cam, Evan, Greg, JD, Rita, Spencer, Bish, Maze, Dana, Vanessa, and many more. To everyone reading this now or listening to this just now, in this case, familiar and far afield, you make the act of writing feel far less like shouting into the void. May we find each other in the electric lasagna. To the world out there for making me laugh nervously so often. And finally to Mom for reiterating that even when nothing works, everything still happens. That gave me a little bit of chills there. All right, there's also a legend. As I wrote this book, I had many conversations about the difficulty for reading for pleasure in modern life. I very intentionally wrote this book to be accessible, fun, and thought-provoking read, no matter how tired, overstimulated, or short attention span you may be. I find that reading helps some. I've ordered the stories in a way I feel is the best journey through the collection. However, if you'd prefer to customize your experience, there's a legend to help you jump around the story order if you like. We'll read them in order over these episodes, but we'll also go through the legend because who knows, how, sleepily that could be. Whether you have 10 minutes or 60, whether you want something humorous or heavy when you sit down to read, I hope this legend can help you find something that suits your mood. Please make it work for you. Well, in that case, actually, I didn't have all the prep. So it's like we may jump around stories to make sure that they fit episode lengths. Okay, so there's a symbol of a quarter of a clock for a shorter read. There's a symbol of like an empty vessel for light. There's a half clock for medium read and a half weighted symbol for somewhere in between. There's a full weighted symbol for heavy. Then there's a 3/4 clock for longer read. There's popcorn for a bit of fun. Then I'm going to change some stuff around. There's a kind of a flying thing for high concept. And then there's things, Scoots will sleepify everything. There's also, these are the, and then there's combinations. I'm not sure if these are going to be, I think these are the stories, But there's baseball gets, it's half heavy, fun, or a bit of fun, and longer read. La Cave is high concept, somewhat heavy, longer read. The Great Divide and Epilogue, high concept, heavy, and longer read. Chimera is has to do with a future that we may say that needs to be a future that needs to be sleepified, to stay like it's not it's the sleepified Sleptonian future, sleepified topian future. It's heavy, longer read. Core Reactor XZ, bit of fun, somewhat heavy, longer read. Cosmic Lemon, high concept, light, longer read. Infinite Potential 1 through 3, it's a medium read, bit of fun, light. Pixel is will contain some sleepification, heavy, medium read. Space Junk 1 through 4 is medium, like in weight, and medium length. Inkjet Rising, bit of fun, light, or not heavy, medium read. Matriarch of Nibbana, that's a medium length, a bit heavy, to be snoozified. Deep Futures, bit of fun, light, and not as a medium length. Budget, bit heavier, half length. Direct Memory, high concept, a bit heavier, medium length. Scrubs, not the TV show Scrubs, but Scrubs. It's medium heaviness and medium length. Jones's Space Peas, high concept, heavy, and medium length. Press On 1 and 2, a bit of fun, light, and shorter read. Kids, high concept, light, shorter read. The Last Book, written by a human, bit of fun, sleepopian, medium, and short. Snacks of Toads, bit of high concept, medium weight, and shorter read. Geezers, high concept, heavy, shorter. We only come out for nighttime, or we only come out at night. High concept, light, and shorter. Interlude, shorter, medium weight, and high concept. Reset, light, short length, and a bit of fun. The Custodian, high concept, sleepified, a little bit heavier, short. Nothing Works, Everything Happens, short, medium weight, high concepts. Worn Out, a little bit heavier, shorter length. To Waver in the Heat of Dance-Offs. A bit of fun, as dance-offs are, medium weight and shorter time. So that is the legend of a ramble. And now we start with Press On. And again, this is not me. This will be me reading from the book and making asides and sleepifying stuff. And I may forget when I'm doing that. But that's kind of the cool thing about these crossovers. Like Albus Salix was our model, and we fixed Space Junk, and we've done a bunch of other ones where it's like then you can check this stuff out during the day and kind of compare. And we've even done it in a non-fictional way with Bittersweet Life. So here we go. Press on. Press on with the story, Scoots. Play it again, said the small little being. As you wish, replied the obsolete model A1Y45 android. Once more, the sound of an ocean played from a tiny speaker embedded in a small of the robot's back. The tiny little creature turned its head forward to soak in the view as it listened to the tiny whooshing of waves. Its nickname was SDM. The two sat on an outcropping, their legs dangling over the edge, staring out at Earth, a more rocky part of Earth with a lot of dirt and stuff like that. And had gotten a lot of sunshine. All semblance of green had disappeared from the vista surrounding them, replaced with the copper and brown hues of a resting planet. Enough time had passed that there was no signs of human ever having been there. No buildings that had taken, to decide to take a snooze. No rusty vehicles. No things from anatomy class and no signs at all. And yet, in all that time, nature had still not reclaimed the landscape. The sun was an ambient pink glow diffused by the atmosphere, now thick with a fog that had a certain smell to it. Now, SDM had lived within this scene its entire life, eking out an existence on the scant. No scat. I don't know if there is scatting at this current time, but we'll find out. The scant populations of only the most durable insects and grubs. It did not know how long it had lived, but it felt the ache of an eternity spent living on a planet that was, you could say, was desolate. But there was it was lacking the serving of lattes and the associations with the latte existence. So it was desolate. The being pondered as it listened. Yeah, how much longer am I going to be around here? The waves crashed in the way waves do, but that I can't really do on a sleep podcast. Now, nearby, the robot, AI-Y45's ship sat atop a similar lower outcropping. Watching it land had been SDM's first excitement in ages. No one else came to visit. No one came here anymore. There was no reason to. SDM had been disappointed to find that its visitor was a long ago discontinued robot, almost certainly incapable of what most would consider nuanced conversation. So far, as expected, the android had been irritatingly pragmatic. The two odd companions were scanning the antiques robot's database for records of all the things that existed on Earth in the time before Desolate. They'd been at it for hours. What happened to all the water? Asked SDM. Maybe Scoots could do some sort of voice here. But as long as it's sleepy, yeah, I can do that. Thanks, Scoots narrating within Scoots narrating. The Scoots that's narrating my narration. The sun's natural increase in luminosity made worse by the holes in the layers, upper layers. There's evaporative effects. Explained AI-Y45. And SDM said, and that's why everybody moved away? Correct. All biological life in the known universe likes to have water, kind of requires water. Yeah, I don't, though, said SDM with a smile. Very interesting, said the robot. Silence filled a gap in the pair's stilted conversation. No crickets sang, no animals hunkered down for the night. Everything simply grew darker. Show me another, please, said SDM. A small LED blinked on the side of the android's head as it accessed its databases. The waves stopped. Birdsong replaced them. Birdie birds made birdie bird sounds. What is that? SDM asked, bewildered. A small creature called a bird. It could travel significant different distances without touching the ground, the android answered. SDM looked out at the foggy atmosphere, imagining birds so long gone, soaring through the thick haze. The pink glow had turned to a fiery orange and a deep purple, and then a deep purple as the sun began to set behind the curtain of foggy, loamy air. Why would a bird make that sound? Asked SDM. To communicate, whether it be alerting other birds, strengthening bonding with other pairs, attracting mates. The robot spoke in a monotonous rhythm. Much of life's action is predicated upon the pursuit of, butterflies in your tummy, natural things leading you to places where your back may sweat. Nearly all creatures strive towards this goal. Not me, SDM said again. The robot nodded. SDM tossed a pebble over the side of the perch, and a trail of dust followed the rock as it rolled down the slope. What else you got? SDM pried eventually. The robot's lights blinked. The birdsong ended. There was a long pause as it processed deeper into its archival storage. The small speaker on its back burst into a chorus of human beings singing poorly. SDM jumped as the sound was so surprising. And I'll just say the words of the song. We twa hey ra bout braces a pound goans fi. Hey, listen to that, SDM said. A grin spread across its face as it listened intently. The audio skipped and jittered and then looped at a clumsy point in the melody. Regrettably, my systems are not working as well as they once did, the robot apologized. The audio trembled. It's great, SDM exclaimed, shouting over the singing. It's like a bird, but louder and not as pleasant. SDM swayed and swung its legs playfully over the edge of the outcropping. The robot powered down the audio and sat patiently, having no further destination on its itinerary. Sitting in this spot was the extent of what either being had planned for the rest of time. What creature was that? Asked SDM. Homo sapiens, colloquially known as humans, the robot answered. Humans? 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 SDM tried to pronounce the word. A dust swirl formed and twirled below. And did they make these sounds for the same reason as the birds? SDM asked. Primarily, but humans were marginally more cognitively advanced than birds. They also sang to motivate themselves in and out of dance-offs, to entertain one another, and to stave off an inborn sense of dread. SDM puckered out its lower lip and considered this, visibly not understanding. They did it for what they called fun, the robot added. SDM remained confused. Humans, a sense of dread, making sounds with their mouth for fun. Saying it out loud didn't help make any more sense of it. SDM looked up at its new companion and shrugged. I will attempt to explain further. The android's LED flickered and a fan somewhere inside its body whirred as it dug deeper, even deeper into its outdated archives. And for the rest of that story, you'll have to wait. This next story is called Infinite Potential Part 1. I got to do a little reset here. The waiting room was full of people. Neva Velo sheepishly squeezed through the door rather than opening it fully. Everyone still looked up as she gently closed it behind her. She averted her eyes, keeping them on the floor, and skulked over to the last empty chair. The fluorescent lighting was doing no one in the room any favors. Vintage Hawaiian music played over tinny speakers. Wires hung haphazardly from the back of each small speaker draped down the wall. The wobby slide guitars and thin flute melodies made the room feel like one big elevator, albeit a vaguely vintage cool one. The paint on the walls was an awful shade of beigey pink. Of all the colors they could have chosen, who went with this one? Neva wondered how a business that was attracting so many new customers couldn't afford a nicer office space. She had seen these Infinite Potential Inc. offices popping up all over town. They must have been snatching up whatever real estate was available in order to keep up with demand. A name was called. It wasn't Neva. She waited patiently. And then, at exactly 2:20 p.m., the pre-booked time of her appointment, a man burst through the same door she'd come in. He wore an expensive-looking suit. He also looked as though he had to watch a tutorial on how to tie a tie before leaving the house in the morning. Nothing was hanging quite right. The shoelace bows of his slick shoes were frustratingly uneven. It made Neva grind her teeth. Everything about him made her a little uneasy. "Here to see Glint?" the man asked, stepping in front of her and holding out a hand. Neva reached up and gave the man a half-hearted handshake. "I'm Glint. Come on in." Glint turned and waltzed straight through the door on the opposite side of the room. Neva stood awkwardly, nodded to an older woman across from her, out of an odd sense of obligation, and then followed Glint. He led Neva to a small office at the end of a long hallway, which was painted in an equally questionable shade of light green. After struggling to unlock the door, Glint fell into the office and threw out his satchel in the corner. He started pulling open desk drawers in search of something and then remembered to take off his coat. "Why didn't anyone else's person come in through the front door like you did?" Neva asked hesitantly. "Oh." Glint continued searching until he found yesterday's coffee cup on the top of a file cabinet in the corner. He took a long gulp. Gulp. "That was 'cause I was about to be late." He set the mug back on the top of the filing cabinet, collected himself, and smiled at Neva. "Sorry about that." "No problem," Neva lied. She cautiously pulled out a chair from in front of the desk and sat. "So," Glint followed her lead and sat as well. Then he made a face of deep concentration. "Sorry, remind me of your name again." "Neva." "Oh, of course, apologies. So, Neva, do you know what we do here?" Well, sort of," Neva replied. "You let me try out different lives?" Well... Again, Glint thought hard and showed every ounce of that effort on his face. "Not exactly. I wouldn't call it trying it out. We're more of a matchmaking agency than anything. We're just a matchmaking agency that has a profoundly diversified reach across all of the known galaxies." This did not seem to be clarifying things for Neva. She simply shrugged and widened her eyes a little. Glint tried again. "We're very good at connecting our customers with whatever they're looking for out of life." "Want a romantic partner who shares your exact values? No problem. I can find them. Want a career that offers the fulfillment of actually helping people, really, really helping them? I can facilitate that. Want to know the pride of being the most renowned poet in a star system? Now, that depends a lot on your poetry, but if anyone can find you the right audience in the right star system anywhere in the known universe, it's probably me. Right, said Neva, shrinking a little in her chair at the suggestion of being famous. And, well, at least my friend told me if I didn't like my choices... Oh, yeah, you can switch. You certainly can. But know that the life we decide on together is very much real. If you want to marry a Xlorbian, you can actually marry an Xlorbian. If you would change your mind, that Xlorbian will have very strong feelings for you for the rest of existence. What's an Xlorbian? Glenn cut Neva off before she could ask her question. And of course, there are fees involved. I mean, the company is generous. They understand the impulse to try a few options before settling on one. So we include the first 3 choices in what you pay today. After that, though, your premium goes up pretty quickly. I see, Neva replied. Also, and I'm obligated to clarify here, changing any one aspect of your life does, in fact, constitute a whole new life. So if you like your job, but you decide against the Xlorbian, that's a total do-over. I'd still need to refile all the paperwork. Right, of course, Neva said. You wouldn't believe how many people try to pull a fast one on that. Oh, everything's great, but I just wish I lived someplace sunnier. Sorry, chum, you're still asking me to move your entire existence across what could be multiple galaxies? Glenn continued, speaking more to himself than Neva. Neva crossed her hands in her lap and tried to digest it all. Sorry, kid, what I'm trying to say is consider all of your choices carefully. I mean, I'll walk you through it. You can change your life. That's what the commercials say. I know, but unless you've got incredibly deep pockets... Glint paused for a moment and made a skeptical face. Just don't be willy-nilly about it. I get it, Neva said. Still interested? Glenn asked. Still interested, Neva said. Neva nodded. Great. Let me get your details, and then we'll sit down with your options. Neva hadn't considered just how much work it would be to choose an entire life. When they'd initially sat down in front of the computer terminal, Glenn had asked her if she wanted to pre-populate her current life choices before they began. She said no, wanting a fresh start. However, while scrolling through the long list of categories and nested subcategories and subcategories of nested subcategories, she was reconsidering. Neva moved the mouse around the screen, trying to choose a place to start. I've got a lot of decisions to make, she muttered. You certainly do, Glint replied, but that's the beauty of it. We give you the ability to make these choices. You can have whatever life you want. Desires, appearances, aptitudes, special aptitudes, romance, career, family, friends, location, milestone, values. The list continued off the screen. Each of these contained many levels of subcategories. At the end of each subcategory was an enormous list of options. The first drop-down from location was galaxy. The only one of these Neva recognized was Milky Way. There was over 4,000 entries on the list. How am I supposed to choose a galaxy if I never heard of most of them? Neva asked. Well, I wouldn't really recommend starting there unless you'd done specific research into it. The system's quite clever, though. As you make other choices, it will automatically update all the options. For example, there's no Xlorbians in most of these galaxies, so if you choose a romance with a Xlorbian, it will automatically sort the galaxies where they live to the top. I mean, you could live with a Xlorbian anywhere. I don't want to romance a Xlorbian, Neva said matter-of-factly. Glint shrugged. Fair enough. My point is the system makes things easier as you go along. And of course, I'm here to help. Neva moved the mouse around some more, expanding categories and then collapsing them again. Most customers start at the top, Glint suggested. They're chasing something they can't find in their current lives. The desires section covers those more abstract choices. Fame, joie de vivre, glory in dance-offs, that sort of thing. Special aptitudes is good too. If you want to be able to do gymnastics, really good ones that impress people, or, just swim really excellently, even beyond human capabilities. How do you facilitate me swimming beyond human capabilities? Neva asked. We've managed a very large Rolodex of very talented people to work with, including those people that can, make certain features modular. And it's nothing, I can tell you, it's super easy, not a big deal at all. Being modular is part of the process, if you wish. Glint answered smugly. Again, Neva opened and collapsed the nested categories in these sections, perusing the end choices. Maybe we should pre-populate with my current life thing, she said. 1 week and multiple appointments later, Neva and Glint had finalized her life. In the end, she had largely focused her decisions on 3 primary choices. She wanted a loving, supporting partner, named anything other than a variation of Jackson. Second, she'd picked a passionate career in arts administration. Although Glint had reassured her that there was an audience out there for anything she might create, she'd held firm she wasn't a really creative type person. She just enjoyed being around that kind of thing. Lastly, she wanted stability with marginally above average income. She wanted to feel as though she always had a safety net. In the end, Neva chose to stay in the Milky Way galaxy. Glint had already reviewed the paperwork and done his portion of the regulatory applications. Okie dokie, just the last few things, Glint said as he picked up the stack of papers on his desk, knocked them on their end, and collected them all together. Again, I am mandated to say all this, but here we go. Ahem. You understand that, on signing this document, your current life ceases to be yours, and from that moment forward, you officially assume the new life that you've outlined above. There are no take-backsies. We have no way of building the life you've hodgepodged together through decades of untracked choices. Neva hesitated but nodded. You further acknowledge that, by signing, you accept the competence of the representative of Infinite Potential, Inc., who has been assigned to your account. Ahem. And you have every confidence in the facilitation of the life you have selected through the selection process. Neva looked at Glint. I'm famously late, but I'm quite good at this job, he smiled. Neva nodded. And finally, you accept that while Infinite Potential, Inc. offers you the ability to change your mind, A, doing so may affect your account premium, and B, Infinite Potential, Inc. reserves the right to revoke this ability at any time. Wait. Neva's head tilted at the last sentence. I mean, I could get stuck with a life I don't like. Well, either that or you got the one you got now, kid. I told you, this isn't trying out lives as though they're clothes. This is simply taking your choices into your own hands. But what if they take away my ability to change? Well, what if I don't Neva said aghast. Glint paused for a moment and chuckled. Just do a good job of picking. Don't pick a life that's full of awe. I mean, full of awe with an E, not full of you know what I'm saying? Neva sat back in her chair and considered this for a long time. Eventually, she stood and grabbed the papers out of Glint's hands, reviewing them. This looks like a good life to you, right, Glint? It looks like a great life to me, kid. Neva nodded slowly, reassuring herself. Okay, I agree. And this story will be continued in part 2. Okay, this next story is called Kids. Doka watched the layers of reality stacked on top of one another. His friend's world was loading in. For a moment, all the trees of the park turned into big gray boxes, the grass into a blue grid. The grid shifted again into neon swirls of color, expanding the edges of the park and bending upward before fading to black, making the ground appear seamless with the sky. The sharp-edged gray boxes that had replaced the trees shifted once more into organic clay mounds. Tribal etchings covered the clay, painted in bright neon colors. Above, the sky retreated into a nebulous expanse. It filled with hundreds of spiraling planetoids, just as colorful and wondrous as the etchings. Everything begged to be touched, textured as though covered in layers of thick paint. You could run your fingers across any surface and feel its deep contours. To anyone who hadn't grown up with a perceptual implant, it would have been a complete sensory overload. Nearby, Doka's grandfather sat on a park bench reading a book he'd read before many times. If he could see what Doka was seeing, his brain might have, turned off and put him to sleep. He glanced up. He saw his grandchild's head rolling around, taking in the new reality. He smiled and went back to reading. Doka clicked his tongue and many tiny dots appeared, moving throughout the scenery. His friends. The closest were the twins playing etherball. So he moved across the swirling colors of the ground, between the clay humps, and arrived at a massive triangular structure. Its scale barely made sense, but this was something Doka was used to. The rules changed often in Doka's world. The twins swung back and forth through the structure, which was extended high into the atmosphere. They alternated rhythmically, one behind the triangular monolith, the other was in front. From the ground, their speed looked reasonable, but Doka knew that when experienced firsthand, the swinging felt like it was traveling at the speed of light. The book was only there to fill in the blanks between checking on Doka. The grandfather watched his grandson approach the swing set and tensed. The boy was getting awfully close to those recklessly swinging legs. He resisted the urge to call out. Kids had to learn spatial awareness somehow. The grandfather distracted himself with the pages of his book. Each time a twin reached the peak of their swing, they would stretch out a massive, disproportionate foot attached to their unreasonably long leg and kick a planetoid in the sky. The swirling planetoids would dance around in the murky black above, bouncing off of one another. A satisfying donk echoed with each collision. The goal of Etherball was to bounce as many times as possible. Like a game of pool crossed with skipping a stone, but played in outer space with celestial bodies. Whenever one twin would reach a new high score, a short melody would play throughout the world. Other friends scattered around would react by saying, "Ooh, nice." Winner. Text zooming across the park from all directions before they puffed into smoke above whichever twin is being cheered on. Doka's grandfather finished his chapter and slowly closed his book, setting it down on the bench beside him. Doka waited for a turn at the game. He lay down, pink grass growing instantly from the colorful earth, pillowing up behind him as he did. He stared up, watching the planets bounce around the galaxy. Another friend, Nye, saw this and moved over and joined him. They traced the trajectory of the colliding planets with their fingers. A white line followed their movements, drawing across the sky above to see. As the planets bounced, Doka and Nye doodled their chaotic paths and then hastily turned them into drawings before the next twin swung and kicked. Doka quickly sketched a horse. Nye outlined a distorted, smiley face. They laughed and watched as LOLs erupted around the park. Their friends began tracing drawings in the sky above as well. Doka's father watched as the kids lay in the dirt giggling. He followed their outstretched fingers upward, noticing the cloudless sky. He took a deep breath and enjoyed the quiet beauty of the park. They would miss the number 9 bus if they didn't leave in the next 10 minutes. The grandfather watched a pair of squirrels chase each other through the trees. He watched Doka roll around beneath the swing set and wondered what his grandchild was experiencing. There was no reason to rush. He picked up his book again and started the last chapter, even though he knew how it already ended. So yeah, get comfortable here and picture the squirrels chasing one another as the grandfather, a pleasant day at the park, kids laying around, and then kids swinging on the swing sets, their faces clearly in enjoyment and relaxation and concentration too. And maybe even connection as they're playing together mostly. And then start to imagine you're watching your friends playing the game, and you're saying, "Is it? Do you guys? This region calls it ether ball. Where I come from, they call it ether ball." And you say, "Okay." And we used to have a dance. We call it ether ball, but we had a dance at school called the ether ball. And you say, okay, interesting. You watch the planetoids move across the sky. And you feel that memory, the relaxing memory, the evocative motion of a swing on a swing set. The motion carrying you up and down, back and forth. And you can even put yourself in the shoes of the children playing this game while on the swing set with access to something, a whole nother layer where they're reaching out their feet and kicking and moving the planetoids around. But that there's even another layer, kind of like watching the clouds, of watching the motion of the planets and tracing them with your finger. And then even looking at that and saying, what shape does that make, or altering it, like as you swish your finger through the sky, it's leaving its own trace that you could still, because it's like almost like a puffy cloud that you could shape even more, like a horse or a smiley face or a book or a bench or whatever it is. And you just kind of sit there and enjoy it as it all happens in front of you. You think no matter where we are, no matter what time period we're at, if we let it be a relaxing day at the park, it is a relaxing day at the park. You also think about the times you've read stuff at the park, or the times you just sat there relaxing, watching other people enjoy themselves, and like the grandfather giving it that extra moment to really sink in that these moments, as small as they are really special. And that's the end of the story and the end of our reading for tonight. Good night, everybody. All right, everybody, this is Scoots. This is a tuck you in message. And as I start this message out, I want to make this very clear, especially if you're listening right now and you're new. You only listen to this show occasionally, like once in a while when you need it, or you're just having a tough time right now, getting through something, getting over something, the kind of things I talk about in the intro. Or if you're like me, a lot of times in my life where things financially felt challenging and supporting the show just isn't possible, you really don't need to do anything. You don't need to support the show directly or be concerned because we really do have you. And I'm going to read through some testimonials of people that support the show for them and for you. And those testimonials are just a few of the thousands of people that support the show. So it can be here for people that can't support the show, or it really wouldn't make sense if you're only listening occasionally, if you're new, for you to support the show. So we have you covered. Like the listeners who I'm going to read through tonight, and like I'm trying to return to doing, we've done in the past, they're the reason the show can be here night after night, and that you don't have to worry about it. But before we get to those testimonials, there is a BUT, right? If you are listening right now and you normally listen all night long to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 episodes a night, or you listen most nights during the week, if you fall asleep fast and you just happen to be hearing this, or you've been listening longer than a year, if the show is a big part of your evenings, your wind down, and your sleep, you know, that's where I've been trying to be more and more clear and direct. I love making this podcast. The people that work with the show, work on the show, love making it. I love being a service, trying to bring sleepy joy and delight, help you fall asleep, bring you comfort in the deep, dark night. But the only way that happens is if you're in one of those listener categories, is if people that listen the same way as you do support the show. And we all go through seasons, right? So maybe you had your season of supporting the show, or maybe your season of supporting the show's coming up, or maybe you're like, well, I'm not sure. Let me look outside and see what I think. Or maybe you're hoping like that someone else will support the show, because it is either you or someone that listens like you supporting the show, or it's no one supporting the show tonight, right? It's either an all-night listener other than you, or you, the all-night listener, you, the multiple nights a week listener, you, the person that's been listening, or someone else that listens just like you, or it's just to be clear, like that's really what keeps the show going and impacts ups and downs of the show. So I don't know if tonight's your night. If you are in a position to support the show, you've been putting it off, maybe think about supporting it right now at sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. And don't wait for tomorrow or set some kind of thing tomorrow, or kind of like me, think fondly of the person that we're both hoping steps up tonight, that all-night listener. That person that falls asleep fast, somebody that's been listening 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, or someone that's here every night with us. But who has you guys? You know, who's in the community supporting the show for everyone? Well, Melissa is. Melissa's been listening for over 2 years now, nearly nightly. So a nearly nightly listener, and it helps so much and puts me in a very relaxed mood. I finally subscribed when I realized on most nights I didn't have my phone with me, but I could literally recite the beginning of the podcast in my head. And even that in my head almost worked. And the reason I didn't do it sooner was part of it was cost, but now I'm in a financial place to do so. But the other part was complacency. I think forgetting to do it when I inevitably would fall asleep. I've always been one of the super listeners described on the show, and I kept putting it off. And I think that came from a place of having all free podcasts. I think it was just truly complacency. I think you say it well in the podcast. This show has given me so much support and help. It's time to turn around and support you and the team. It feels nice to feel like we have a hand in keeping it afloat, and that is really true. And Taylor also supported the show, and Taylor said, I'm an adult, late 20s, early 30s, go through brief periods of insomnia that last around a month, and I tried sleeping me on a friend's recommendation and bounced off it. It wasn't until a few years later when I was really struggling that I tried it again, and it worked. And I found the ads distracting and decided to try out ad-free ones by supporting the show and found this version worked perfectly. The monthly cost is small compared to the benefit I get from the show. And even when my insomnia quiets down a bit, I still enjoy listening to the show because I like listening to Scooter. So thanks, Taylor. And then Stephanie. Stephanie has been listening for about 8 years, and I had the same experience Scooter just describes all the time. I tried the podcast and disliked it. I just didn't get it yet. And then later I was traveling. I thought I'd give her another try, and I've been listening since. And I really like the references on the show, some of the personal stories, and I can fall asleep really quickly now, and that's completely worth supporting the show. And I put on Sleep With Me also to make me feel more comfortable in other times. I just feel like I spend so much money on things that have no meaning in my life. This show means much more to me that I can't help but being a supporter. In the past, I felt like other people would take care of it for me, like there was people with limitless money who should be doing it for the rest of us. But once I really thought about how I spend my money and my deep relationship with the show, I realized I am one of the very few people who should be a supporter. It took a while, but I did so 3 years ago. I feel like I'm probably one of those super listeners. Scooter works hard for us, and hard work deserves fair compensation. And what about Debbie, who said, I listen almost every night, sometimes all night. I try to keep my queue full. I especially like the Trader Joe's episodes, and I feel comforted by a familiar voice. That's why I support Sleep With Me as a board bestie, and it seems like a good value. The obstacle to me supporting the show was remembering to do so. Was to remember to do it once I decided to support this podcast. And if I feel responsible, free is great. But if something has worth, it's also important to support it financially. So thanks, Melissa, Taylor, Stephanie, and Debbie for supporting the show. Wouldn't exist without listeners like you. And maybe you relate to it. Maybe you're the person tonight, the Taylor, Stephanie, Debbie, Melissa tonight that'll support the show. And when you do, I believe it or not, I send out a video and I ask you why. So I'm looking forward to hearing your why of why you support the show. Thanks.